Councillor McIver?
No, I'm good.
I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented then.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor McDougall. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, the agenda is approved for this evening. Our next item is gallery presentations. So I'd like to first welcome our team from Straight Richmond Housing Coalition, Cheryl McDaniel and Celeste Gotel. They are going to present to us this evening about affordable housing. And I will hand things over to you if you want to turn on your microphones. Thank you so much for coming and spending the evening with us for this presentation.
Your Worship, I'm just going to give Celeste presentation link. Will just take me a second.
Sure thing, Terry. Thank you.
So Celeste, I believe you have you should have presentation rights now. So if you want to share your screen.
There's a line through it that doesn't really allow me to share the screen. Can you see it?
No.
No.
Just do it again. Just give me 1 second.
No, it's not allowing me to share it.
Terry, perhaps you can Celeste can just ask.
Yeah, I'll just get you to advance the slides then, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to express our thanks to members of council for providing us an opportunity to join you this evening, both Sharon and myself from the coalition, to talk a little bit about housing and how it's impacting our communities. This is not my first time before council, so some of you I've had an opportunity to meet before and a couple of you are new, but certainly a lot of what I'm going to be sharing with you this evening will not be new to you because several of you have been involved with the coalition for the last couple of years. Next slide, Terry. I thought I'd just point out at the outset an interesting fact. I'm all about facts and things, and I find it really interesting that it was back in 1986 that the World Health Organization stated that having stable housing and a place to call home is a basic human need. But yet it wasn't until 2019 in Canada that the Governor General signed it into Law Bill C-97, and it was through this legislation that the Government of Canada legally recognized an explicit right to housing for its residents. So it took some 33 years later for that to happen in this country, which is kind of ironic. So next slide. So just quickly what we're going to be covering today. I know we have a short period of time, but I would like to share a little bit about the coalition and its beginning, some of the things that we need to consider about housing in the rural environment, how housing impacts various groups and demographics in our communities, some of the gaps, some of the factors to consider when addressing housing, and of course, always how municipal partners can be leaders in housing and opportunities for the future. Next slide. So the coalition's beginnings, we've been operating for about 2 years now. The coalition first met in December 2018, and it followed a think tank that was held in Port Hawkesbury in October of that year. There were about 65 people that attended that think tank. Many of you in the room today would have been there. And a number of people gathered afterwards and said they were committed to moving this work forward. But the conversations about housing started with the town of Port Hawkesbury a lot sooner than that. It was back in 2015, when I moved to the area and start working on this topic, that I started my initial conversations with Brenda at that time. And it took a lot of time to get some traction to start working with partners to develop this coalition. So the coalition is a group of concerned citizens from both Richmond County and the town of Port Hawkesbury that are really concerned about housing. And in the last 2 years, we've accomplished a number of things, including partnering with Santa Fe Extension to have another event in May of 2019 to talk about moving research into action. We also partnered with a number of municipal partners in the Quad Counties to put together a very comprehensive and impressive research application to Canada Housing and Mortgage to do some data collection and research. Now, unfortunately, we were one of about 40 applicants from across the country, and we're not funded, but it spoke volumes about the commitment within the Quad Counties to be working on areas of housing. We also hosted a number of landlords to start talking about housing needs in the area and how we could partner with private developers. We've had a number of our meetings, we've included provincial and federal partners to gain a deeper understanding about what's going on. We reached out to federal candidates during the federal election, and of course, all of you would have been very familiar with the education campaign that we launched last fall during the municipal election. So next slide. Some of these things you may have seen around and would be familiar to you. Next slide. So again, the vision of our coalition is to have inclusive, healthy, affordable, sustainable, and accessible housing available in Greater Richmond. I noticed at the outset that the presentation was called affordable housing, but really our coalition's mandate is much broader than affordable housing. It's about suitable, safe, and appropriate housing as well. The coalition consists of a core membership of 16 people, and some meetings we've had over 20 attend the meetings. Next slide, please. Here are some of the infographics that many of you would have seen during the municipal campaign, and I did send the booklet around. I'm hoping that all municipal councillors receive the entire booklet of all the infographics that are chock full with facts and figures. Next slide. I'm going through this really quickly because I know we've only got 10 minutes. This is a slide that we did up to kind of showcase about rural housing. Next slide. So some of the things that we wanted to mention were the unique needs about rural communities that kind of set us apart from when we think about homelessness and housing issues in the urban center. Some of the things that are a little different for us is that homelessness, for example, or precarious housing often shows up hidden. So we don't always see it, whereas in an urban environment, we may be more apt to see people lining up at a soup kitchen or you know, even homeless people kind of occupying different spaces. In rural contexts, often we don't see that. Couch surfing is particularly common among youth who live in very unstable homes, may have been asked to leave, don't feel safe in their homes, or what have you. We also have seniors. So seniors experiencing issues around housing can be very notable in rural areas because of the transportation issues, for example. So, you know, often seniors in their elderly years may have some decline in health or what have you, which makes it very difficult for them to live in rural communities because they may not be able to drive at night. They may have lost their license because of cognitive ability or what have you. So that's very unique, and we have a very limited community transportation system in rural communities. We have single women in our communities that are living in dangerous situations. Some of them have the courage to leave that situation and go to a transition house, but they often have very few options of where to go when they've left the transition house. We have high levels of child and family poverty in rural communities, and that really contributes strongly to the need for more affordable housing. Next slide, please. The cost of utilities in rural communities often put low-income homeowners at risk because you may have a house, but if it's poorly insulated, or if you're living in poverty or on income assistance, the cost of just heating a home can be very prohibitive. There's a lot of stigma and discrimination that limits access to affordable housing, and is particularly notable in rural communities because people experiencing mental health and addictions issues are often people who are considered hard to house, and that's kind of further stigma. A lot of landlords don't want to bring them in as tenants because they may not be reliable. And then there are a lot of stigma associated with people on low income, again, landlords that may not want to rent to those individuals. We often will see some private apartments that may not necessarily be up to snuff, if you will, and may not be the best and most safe and suitable places for people to live. But often if you're on a very low income, sometimes it's the only affordable place that you could find. And then of course in rural communities, there's long waiting lists for public housing. And even though sometimes there's vacancies, the housing programs themselves through public housing are targeted for seniors and families. So there's a whole host of segment of our population that don't even qualify. Next slide. So there's 4 key factors to consider when we're talking about addressing housing issues. One is affordability, and that's often the one we hear about most. There's no affordable housing. But there's also issues about stability, for example. So it's really important for people to have stable housing so that they can then contribute to the broader community, that they can keep down a job, they can feel safe where they're at. There's issues around safety and quality about housing. Again, people deserve to live in a housing situation where their health is not put at risk due to mold or other assorted issues, or that they're not at risk because of other safety concerns. Then of course there's those neighborhood characteristics about housing as well. But do we have access to grocery stores? Are we close to health amenities? Do we, are there parks nearby? Because that all contributes to good quality life and housing issues. Next slide. The one we hear most about is affordability, and the standard is that anybody who has to pay more than 30% of their taxable income on housing is spending far too much. And we know that particularly people on low income, we know they're paying considerably more to keep a household going than 30%. Next slide. Some of the gaps and needs in this particular community, when I say this community, I mean Strait Richmond area, is again, limited affordable housing for all demographics. We have no emergency housing for youth or men in this area. We have no second stage housing for women who are at Leaside, and we would like to move them out of the emergency housing into another situation. We've only got 36 seniors apartments through public housing and 31 family units in the Port Hawkesbury area. We have limited housing options to address a wide variety of seniors' needs for different level of care. We have an aging population with only one long-term care facility with 66 beds. And currently, one of the biggest challenges about accessing funding through national programs is that we do not have a not-for-profit organization in the area with a mandate specifically to address housing. That's one of the biggest issues. So now I'm going to call upon my counterpart, Sharon. She's going to take us through those last few slides. Again, I've painted a very glim picture, but I'm very hopeful because we've got a council here that has been doing some great stuff around housing, and there's lots of great stuff that we can continue to do.
Okay, thanks, Celeste. So she's right, how municipal partners can be leaders in housing. First of all, by displaying leadership. You can reach out, you can educate the community and develop housing solutions together. Some of that has happened already with the Housing Committee and distributing the housing survey. You can be decision makers, so critically assess processes, investments affecting the delivery of affordable, suitable housing in Port Hawkesbury. Also be risk takers. So kind of think outside the box, but develop incentives and collaborate, especially with the private sector. Really help to create awareness. So promote the role of housing and really show how inclusive housing can lead to healthy, safe, growing communities. Could we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so bring attention and engage citizens. So we need to work to bring attention to Port Hawkesbury housing needs and how the residents can be part of that solution. And we need to explore options for affordable housing. Look at zoning bylaws, tax credits, land transfers, and that would be for new and retrofitted construction. We need to form good working partnerships, both public and privately, and definitely promote and advocate for housing matters and how they concern our area, and some of our concerns and what we need to do to address them. We need to collaborate with all levels of government. So that's federal, provincial, regional. There's lots of funding options and programs that are available. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So basically, we have examples of a few municipal actions that have been taken. And the town of Port Hawkesbury, as I mentioned, you've already set up your housing committee and distributed your housing survey. But there's the Antigonish Town and County. They actually provided land to Antigonish Affordable Housing Association. So they have dealt with their housing issues. They started long before we did, so we can look to them for some guidance. Chester, they have an age-friendly housing plan, and they set up a community action team. So they have a whole website of what they've done to help in that area. If we look at Mahone Bay, they have a housing strategy and a land use bylaw. Again, that's another resource that you could look at. Inverness, for example, they've had a dedicated staffing person for the last 3 years. Specifically that handles housing issues. And we have the Cape Breton Partnership. So they've been reaching out to a number of municipal units with conducting housing surveys, collecting data, and assessing that need. And can we go to the next slide, please? So if we're looking at some of the opportunities for the future, we could, excuse me here. So there's a renewed commitment from the federal government. So we're very fortunate recently that there's been a strong emphasis on investment in housing, and that's spilling over into the province as well. And cooperatively, we have the Quad Counties. So even as Celeste mentioned, with our Housing Matters Collation Committee is made up of representatives from outlying areas, and that has brought a lot of input. And although we're a volunteer organization, there's a lot of resources and a lot of things that we've done in that area. Engaging with the private sector is really important, especially developers and business owners. And then we have St. Avex Extension. We can use that as a model. So there's lots of resources and assistance with community housing. And again, mentioning the Cape Breton Partnership. So there's lots of regional assistance and support for partnering. And even as just as an aside, recently, just with the provincial party politicians, there has been strong emphasis and discussion on a housing action plan provincially, talking about a task force that would have municipal representation throughout the province. a rental housing construction tax credit, and a COVID eviction policy and cap on rental increases. So I don't know, Celeste, do you have anything else to add, or are we
No,
open
I
to?
think we've kind of used up our time slot. So I guess if there's any burning questions, I'll defer back to Brenda for that.
Thank you so much, Celeste and Cher, for the very thorough presentation. I'm sure Council does have some questions that they would like to ask or comments. So I would ask if you have questions or comments, please turn your camera on so you can direct your questions or comments to Celeste or Cheryl. Councillor Aucoin, did you want to go first?
Sure, through you, Your Worship. It's more of a comment than a question. I just want to thank everybody on the committee that's working hard, and the presentation was fantastic. I think it was important to get a presentation on here so the people at home watching can understand the need and the seriousness of the need that we need here in Port Hawkesbury. And I just want to thank you for your time this evening, ladies.
Oh, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Councillor McIver, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Yes, I just want to thank everybody for the presentation, and I've seen this before, and it's very good to go over it again. And as you know, we're digging in at this time as a council and looking at this very seriously. It's one of our priorities, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from us. So thank you.
Okay, Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
We're very pleased to see that that sleeves have been rolled up and a committee is underway, and look forward to working with the committee as members of the coalition.
Thanks. Deputy Mayor McCrory, did you have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Celeste and Cher. Again, I just echo Councillor Aucoin's comments that very much appreciate your presentation. It was very comprehensive. It covered all kinds of important points, and I think it'd be a good resource for our housing committee just to have that bit of background, that all that information put together in such a comprehensive way. So thank you for that, and thank you for your contributions and the work that you've put into this housing file. And I guess I should certainly acknowledge Mayor Brenda as well with the contributions she's made to serving as chair and co-chair of the Housing Coalition. The one thing I just would add is affordability is definitely an issue, and we know that. The other issue is accessibility. And the town of Port Hawkesbury, we have a real need for affordable housing. People are struggling in very difficult situations because of that lack of accessibility. And affordability, accessibility definitely are priorities for this council, as Councillor McIver has mentioned, and we've definitely identified that as a priority going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Celeste or Cheryl, did you want to comment on Blaine's statements?
No, but again, I would like to just kind of reiterate Blaine's comments and thank Mayor Brenda for her leadership on this file. She stepped into the role of the co-chair and has been doing that for a couple of years since we got going. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege for me to be working side by side with her, and I know she'll be stepping down to focus more of her efforts on other things, but I know that we'll have the continued support of Councillor Jason and Councillor Blaine moving forward, so look forward to the future.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And I
much.
echo those comments. Yes.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I won't be too far away. I'll still be hanging out, giving thumbs up to our new chair, our new incoming chair.
Yeah, and we know where to find you.
Absolutely. Hard to find. Councillor McDougall, did you have any comments or questions?
No, Your Worship, thank you. I just want to thank you for the presentation. And so that in 2018, we had a very good seminar, daily seminar. I know it's hard to have one now with COVID and everything, but did you say that there's another one of them planned in the near future?
Nothing planned in the near future, but certainly, yeah, that was an excellent one when we had our think tank, and then the next year we had the research. But there's lots of stuff that's happening and conversations that are happening even across the province around community housing. And I think we're going to start seeing some initiatives take place that will have an opportunity to bring together some stakeholders to start having more conversations. So hopefully if we can get this COVID thing kind of in the rear view mirror and can start gathering people again. But even before that, I suspect that in the coming weeks, we're going to be hearing about some stakeholder engagement. So as we learn more, we'll certainly ensure that we pass that information on to get as many people involved in these conversations as possible.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thanks,
I
Celeste.
do thank you, Councillor McDougall, as well for your comments. I do have one, I guess, comment or question for Celeste and Cheryl. As you both have mentioned in your presentation, we are on the cusp of, I guess, launching a local housing committee here in the town of Port Hawkesbury. We're actually just having some preliminary discussions tomorrow about housing in general. And I guess if you were to put top three pieces of advice for things that should be on our radar, what would you both think we should be focused on in the integral first couple of months of our work?
Well, nothing like putting us on the spot, but I think one of the most important things that any community needs to do is to gather information. In the absence of data and research, and it's very difficult to build a case for support to any potential funder, be it government funder or a private funder. So the fact that you've undertaken a survey is a really good thing. So I think that's a critical piece. I think the other thing I would really encourage any municipal unit to do in our areas is to find opportunities to partner and collaborate with others, because we're all in this area, we're all very small municipal units, and I think we have much greater power when we're working together. And I say that because I think the development of that funding application that we put forward to Canada Housing and Mortgage last year was a fine piece of work. And the only reason that we were unsuccessful is because it was a huge competition. But I think if there are opportunities to partner together to do some pieces of work that everyone will benefit from, I think that's a tremendous thing to do. And I guess the last thing that I would say is use your voice. I mean, as municipal units, you have an opportunity to use your voice and to bring forward concerns about the community. Housing is a critical concern in this area, and I think there's an opportunity to be heard at other levels of government. And I would say, you know, we have to use our voice.
You know, it almost sounds like, I know you said I put you on the spot, but that was so smooth, Celeste. That sounded rehearsed.
I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and I'm pretty passionate, if you haven't noticed.
I know. Go ahead, Cheryl. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, the only thing I would add to, especially her last comment, is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so the loud, and the only other part I would add to that, because she basically you're taught, you know, the survey and reaching out and collaborating with the private and the public sector. So, I mean, being a voice that can be heard with other forms of government that can help out with funding and other initiatives. And but I would also reach out to other communities that have already had a footprint, or have put action plans together. Why try to reinvent the wheel if
Right.
part of the wheel's already built, right? And it might only need to modify it a bit.
Excellent
So
advice.
so that's what I would certainly add. And funding, you're not going to go anywhere without funding and partnerships. The developers, the business people, make them part of the solution as well.
That's fantastic. And I know that we've come to the end of your presentation, Celeste and Cheryl. But our next presenter is actually talking about something that Celeste mentioned about needing some kind of social enterprise that can push housing forward from that angle. So you're both welcome to stay on if you like for the next presentation.
Yes, I'll be joining. I'll stay on. Hi, Damien. It's nice to see you.
Hi, Damien.
Thank you on behalf of council. We're so appreciative, Cheryl and Celeste, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Damien McGinnis, who is here with us this evening, to talk about his housing social enterprise. Damien, I'm not sure if you have anybody that's joining you or if it's just yourself this evening.
Because of COVID, it's just myself.
Oh, that's okay. So
I do have our local counselor in the gallery here, though. Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Yeah. So I asked her to be part of this because it's going to be something that her and I have been working towards this for a little while now, and she's been an advocate on my side, so I wanted her to be part of this too. So
that's wonderful. We're happy to have you both here this evening, and I'll hand things over to you, Damien.
Well, on behalf of my colleagues and my future board of directors, I want to thank Mayor, Council, and staff for inviting me. It's quite a segue into what was just talked about. It is an answer to the problem. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're basically, so to give you some background, Terry, do you want to kind of hit the next slide there? Thank you. So I have 3 people working with me right now. Johannes Dombrowski, he's been working in international sales and in land development for over 10 years now. He brings a worldly view and to our group and offers a lot of insight around cost analysis and corporate structures. So he's been a major asset to this whole development of this team and for the organization. And to my right there is Elizabeth Berry, a Newfoundlander that imported her way to Cape Breton. So she's no slouch. She's got numerous years of experience in multi-residential and mixed-use development, where she was a lead on projects in Alberta and Saskatchewan. During this time, she built about 2,500 homes and 19 different developments. So she's got all the experience we need to make this become a reality and a success. During that time, her focus was a lot on affordability, sustainability, and quality. So it goes right into what the biggest concerns that we have are, and we always think about accessibility. That's just a no-brainer in development now, that you build based on having places accessible. So she's a professional in that, and we're very lucky to have her. She's passionate about rural development, just as the rest of us are. She sees an opportunity here and wants to kind of move this forward. So our big idea is, it's nothing new. Like I said, we're from here. We want to see the place grow. We're dedicated to all levels of need. So it's the mom who can't find a place to live, or a person that's having trouble finding a place to live out of the straight area women's place, all the way up to somebody that can afford a $1,200 rental unit. Like there is a gap there. Like, I see it firsthand as a property manager across the area here. I see all needs. Like there's just literally no rental units across the area, all rural of Cape Breton. Like every house is being bought up right now is going to the short-term market, and that's why we want to develop all this under a social enterprise where it's mandated just for full-time rentals, just to build that out, right? So if you want to move to the next one, that'd be great. Our services as a consulting company under Columndale Business Solutions, we're more of a liaison between the private sector and the nonprofit. So we're managing the whole operation with our team. We have access to numerous developers and numerous people that are wanting to invest in these types of opportunities. So we're going to be that middle ground to be able to bring in investment and bring in funding through the different agencies. So we have that capacity, we have that experience, so within the team. So that's what we're guiding towards. Our connections with Cmhc and Housing Nova Scotia, we have a seed application in with Cmhc right now. So we max that out. We try to get the most we could because we want to help other municipalities and organizations get data, the data that Celeste is talking about. We apply for that to include that in the application. So the hope is that we can get that full round of funding and then continue on from there. I've already reached out to Housing Nova Scotia. I started this whole process actually back in November of 2019 after that think tank in Port Hawkesbury, and then that just motivated me a little bit more based on the information that I already had. But there's just a dire need, and after reviewing New Dawn's structure, that's where the whole social enterprise piece came around. And I see New Dawn as a partner. So if you can move on to the next piece here, Terry, you can kind of see who our potential partners are. We see New Dawn as a partner in this whole thing. So we can go reach out to them, whether it's for advice, if they want to come in as a developer, or if they want to come in as just a little bit of seed funding or whatever they want to do as a percentage of a partner in the organization, whatever it is. We still haven't reached out to them because of the transition between presidents, but that will be happening over the next 2 weeks here. That's the goal. So real estate investment trusts are something that's pretty common throughout the world. We've researched numerous studies across Europe and in the US. It's pretty standard. We're working with some lawyers right now to look at different options and whether it's a real estate investment trust or a limited partnership with another organization that can bring in funding or private funding to build such developments, as well as all three levels of government. So go to the next step. So our revenue models, I do have short-term rentals in there, but that's just for cash flow purposes to be able to allow the organization to run at a rate that you have some cash flow within the development. We're looking at a property right now that has cottages on it that will allow for the organization to have direct cash flow day one. So that's the goal, that we purchase an existing operation, develop it into some of the cottages into rental units, and then using that revenue and the cash flow within that business to operate the organization. Affordable housing, we have 50 units there, and that's not even close to where we need to be. That's over the next 5 years, and that's at the lowest rate. We're pretty conservative on all these numbers. Housing purchases, our home purchases, finding homes that are at a pretty affordable, and then fix them up and rent them at a rate that is good for the area. Property management, that's an interesting one that we came up with based on a model that's you bring in people that are living in real rural areas and bring them into communities, and then subsidizing their rent in these newer units and renting out the homes to families, so at a lower rate. So it's affordable on both ends, but at the same time you're capable of you're subsidizing the people that are older and can't afford, don't have an income, but you're also opening up a home for people that are, you know, can't find rentals, but they can't buy a home, but they both have jobs and their families. And I'm seeing that quite often in the rural areas, that people are, you know, they can't find a place to live, so they're still living with mom and dad, and you know, they'd rather be on their own. But next step there. So I know you're really crunched for time, so I'm trying to zip through this. So the short-term timeline, right now we're in the part of building partnerships. So you can see at the bottom of the second rung there, from January till about March now, we're building partnerships. This is our first stop. I've been speaking to a number of the councillors already. You all know that my passion's there, and I know that your passion's there. So we got to find ways to make this work. We're already currently working with developers. We have people in our pocket and ready to start moving, but we're just in the process of developing this organization. So we have a number of potential board members that are interested, and couldn't be any more excited with the people that we're getting. But as you can see, as we roll out, we're hoping to get shovels in the ground, you know, this summer. Like we want to make sure that we have something operational by this summer, and including community engagement sessions throughout the area, in Port Hawkesbury, Port Hood, and Waccagama. How we do that is probably going to be through Zoom or some type of virtual event if COVID continues, of course. But that's the overall goal, that we're going to come out on the top side of this, and then finding people a place to live. That's really what it comes down to. So next slide. So the question always is at these things, well, what are you looking for? So we're looking for people interested in being on the board. So it's a 2-year term to help develop the organization, and then you can serve for 3 of those terms. So 6 years max, and then kind of succession planning through that. As a community development social enterprise, that's how we're recognizing ourselves. We're looking for land for development. We're in constant talks with people from communities and people interested in talking to us about anything housing. So if there's anybody that you know, or anybody, like I've met with a couple of councillors already about some properties, and you know, like they're always top of mind. I have people that I'm working with through my property management company that are always interested. So like and also with my partners and colleagues in the organization. So the goal is, again, we're a community development or social enterprise. We're not a private entity. We're totally committed to housing in rural Cape Breton. I guess right now we just want to make sure that we're opening the door to council and allowing you to know that my phone is always on, ready for any of you to discuss any type of partnership, any type of development that you may think of. You know, our goal is to really just answer the issues that are at bay. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Damien, for your presentation and for your time. And thank you to Lynn for joining you for moral support or whatever have you. I would like to take this moment to invite council to ask any questions that they may have or comments. Councillor O'Coin.
Through you, your worship, to Damien, thank you for the presentation. It's well put together. One question I do have is, we see 50 units is your first goal. Out of those 50 units, what percentage of that would you be looking to have as accessible with lower countertops, wider doors, a true accessible unit?
100% of them.
Thank you.
And that's really has to do with new builds. If we're purchasing existing locations, it's tough to do that right away, but that will be the overall goal, that every 100% of our units will be accessible.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions, Councillor O'Coin?
I'm good for now, thank you.
Okay, so if any other councillor or the deputy mayor, perfect, you have your camera on, go ahead, deputy mayor.
Thank you, your worship, through you to Damien. Damien, thank you for the presentation. I just wonder if you might clarify the role, okay, the community development social enterprise, and you mentioned about the board and getting that established. And then there's Collindale Business Solutions, and you describe that as a go-between between developers and tenants. How does the Collindale Business Solutions, how do you see that working with the community development social enterprise?
We're the management organization until it gets up and running to a level where it's sustainable. So.
Okay, the timeline is, it looks very aggressive, and I wish you all the best, and it'd be very interesting to see how quickly things come together there. But between now and July, you'll certainly have a lot of work cut out for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor McIver. Do you have any questions or comments? If you can turn your camera on.
No, your worship, I have no questions. Just thank you, Damien, for the presentation. It was very well done. And I like your last slide. It's a photo of Port Hood, so it looks pretty nice. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McIver. Councillor McDougall, do you have any questions?
No, I also want to thank Damien and best of luck. And hopefully if there's anything we can do as council, let us know. I know you're not far away.
Thanks, Bob.
I guess one question I would have for you, Damien, is just if you can give us a little bit of detail around a support letter you were hopeful the council would be amiable to.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, through the seed funding through Cmhc, we need support from municipal units, and that's the part of the partnerships. I'm looking for a letter of support for the social enterprise to move forward. That would be a pretty basic letter, and more or less just saying that the need in the community is dire, and that we need a nonprofit organization such as Rural Cape Breton Enterprises to take this initiative on. So.
Thank you. So what we'll do is we can, I guess, see if council is interested based on your presentation with providing a said letter of support.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, your worship, through you to Damien, this letter, Damien, is there a timeline when that's going to be required?
The sooner the better. That's kind of the way all these things work. It'd be appreciated. Yeah.
Well, no, it's I don't know what the wish of the rest of council is, but I appreciate your presentation. As Councillor McIver said, we want to work with you. If there's things that we can assist with, we certainly are open to that. But I think I'd suggest right now that maybe what we would do, or my suggestion, is to defer a letter or making a motion on a letter until we can have a discussion at our February committee of the whole.
Okay. Councillor Coyne. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Through your worship, just get back to the accessibility again for a minute, Damien, if you don't mind. So when I envision the accessibility, my major concern with the accessibility is that somebody who is confined to a wheelchair can live on their own. So like I mentioned before, the lower countertops, lower bathtubs, and you're saying you would be looking at 100% of them, is that correct?
All new builds will be 100%. Yes, every new build that we'll be looking at developing will be a bungalow style, so one level, and have all the accessibility needs to ensure that they meet all the requirements based on accessibility needs in Nova Scotia.
Okay, thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any feedback based on the deputy mayor's suggestion?
Through you, yeah, yes, your worship. I think it's something we could even possibly talk about tomorrow. And maybe we could discuss this tomorrow in our meeting. And it's something that we could maybe bring a motion. No, we can't bring a motion, but we can discuss again at committee of whole, but I think tomorrow we could start.
Sure. Sure. What does the rest of council think? Councillor McCrory or Deputy Mayor McCrory, is tomorrow okay?
Absolutely, Your Worship. Yep, no problem at all.
Okay. Councillor McDougall and Councillor McIver.
Yes, Worship, no problem.
Yeah, tomorrow's fine.
Perfect. So Damien, we just happen to be having a conversation about housing tomorrow, so this is a good fit. And thank you so much for your presentation. And I'm happy to reach out to you based on our council's ongoing conversations. And thank you. It's a wonderful endeavor and definitely needed for Western Cape Breton. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Okay, so our next item is acknowledgements. Okay, I'd like to start off with a little bit of a somber acknowledgement. On behalf of our town staff and town council, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of our dear friend and coworker, Jim Dorton. I want to thank also Jason McMillan for assisting with this acknowledgement as well, for getting some information put together. Jim was a town employee with the Public Works Department for 34 years. He began his work in 1987. These 34 years on the job led to a superb amount of experience. First as a laborer, progressing to lead hand, and in recent years, filling the role as Public Works Acting Supervisor. Jim was certainly one of the top knowledge keepers of maintenance and repair of town infrastructure and winter storm response. Jim was an extremely dedicated employee and was able to routinely keep cool and make decisions under pressure or during an emergency. Jim was well liked by the residents he served and would repeatedly go above and beyond to help someone in need. Jim was an important leader with our town and had the respect and trust of Public Works staff, as well as with all of staff and council. Jim had a large personality, and he always made an impression on those he met, and his keen sense of humor would constantly leave you with a laugh or a smile. Jim loved what he did, and he loved the town of Port Hawkesbury, especially the people who live in Port Hawkesbury. And since his passing, we have all been overwhelmed and overjoyed to hear about how tremendously kind Jimmy has been to the citizens of Port Hawkesbury, as stories have been and continue to be shared throughout the community. Let us acknowledge a moment of silence for Jimmy and his family. We will miss him dearly. Thank you, Council. Did anybody want to say a few words? And thank you, Jason, very much for helping put together the wonderful information. We appreciate it. The next acknowledgement that we have this evening is we are celebrating African Heritage Month here in Nova Scotia. And the 2021 African Heritage Month theme is Black History Matters. Listen, learn, share, and act. Recognize the important legacy of people of African descent and the long-standing history in the development of Canada. The theme brings focus and increased awareness of racialized issues of a community that has overcome great adversity for inclusion. It further calls us to listen, learn, share, and act to make society a better place. Nova Scotia has over 50 historic African Nova Scotian communities with a long, deep, and complex history dating back over 400 years. African Heritage Month provides us with another opportunity to celebrate our culture, legacy, achievements, and contributions of people of African descent, past and present. Also this month, on a more national level, we celebrate Black History Month in Canada. So every February, people of Canada are invited to participate in Black History Month festivities and events that honor the legacy of Black Canadians and their communities. The 2021 theme for Black History Month is "The Future is Now." I'd like to have staff play a video. It's just short that honors Black History Month in Canada for the benefit of council and for the benefit of citizens observing our council meeting tonight. If you can play that video, Terry, that would be great.
Your worship, there's no volume.
Yeah, I think Terry's working on it. It's only about a 40-second video, so he can replay it with sound. Terry, did you want to, do you have your mic on? Maybe that might help. Hi, Terry, can you try turning your mic on? That might be able to give us the sound. That's okay. We're having a little technical difficulties with the sound. So what we'll do is we'll share this. I'll share the link to the video with council this evening so you can watch that for yourself. And we'll also share it on our Town of Port Hawkesbury social media page tomorrow. Okay, is there any other acknowledgements at this time that council would like to offer?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, go ahead.
It's an acknowledgement and a thank you to the community and to the council and town staff that my family received last month with the sudden pass of my stepfather, Dave. The support we received was incredible, overwhelming, really. Never expected half of the support that we got. So just an acknowledgement of the community, the council, the staff, and more so a big thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. And we'd like to extend our sympathies and our condolences to Isabel and your entire family as well. So, never easy loss. Any other acknowledgements here this evening? Okay, so hearing none, we'll move on to approval of council minutes. So I would ask if there are any errors or omissions for our public meeting of January 5th, 2021. Okay, hearing none, I would ask if there are any errors or omissions for our special public meeting of January 25th, 2021. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is business arising from those minutes. If there are any business arising, feel free to put your camera on and we can entertain any business arising at this time. Okay, the next agenda item is council committee reports. I will hand things over to Terry for the committee of the whole reports.
And Terry, I just put the presentation up where it was the video up on before. So I don't know if you want to take control back or if you want me to just go through the slides. I don't mind either way. You're muted.
Okay, yeah, certainly, Your Worship. So we'll just move along, Aaron, to our first slide under there we go. So from the Committee of Whole, we had consensus of council to move forward with a partnership with NCC and the town of Port Hawkesbury. Just an update on that. We've been communicating with the NCC Carpentry Department and Communication Department, and we have estimates of and quantity of what we'll need with respect to promotional the construction of the new garbage boxes, which are for the green cart and recyclable bin for bags of recyclables and actually garbage. So the cost of materials for one of these bins is $490, and the proposal is to have 4 of them constructed. The four of them to be constructed would be used for promotional activities for our waste streaming and solid waste management program that we just rolled out. So I bring that forward for consideration of the of council.
Thank you, Terry. What is the wishes of council?
I would move the motion, Your Worship, to move forward.
I'd second the motion.
You're muted, Brenda.
Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. Thank you to you both. And is there any other discussion on the motion that's on the floor? And if not, you can call the question.
Just one question, please.
Go ahead, please.
Through your worship, Terry, Could you repeat that amount again, please?
It's $490 a piece for lumber. So lumber prices have really skyrocketed over the last since COVID, especially, but even within the last number of months. So it's reflective of actual costs of pricing that NCC have undergone with their bill of materials that they prepared for these units.
Okay, that does seem a bit high to me. It was just this summer, one of my neighbors built one and it was just under $200 for labor. So that seems like an awful big jump over 4 or 5 months.
So we will pay the actual cost of lumber. So whether if it takes them if it costs them $100 instead of $490, then that's what we'll pay. But that's what's been estimated from their bill of material.
Any follow-up questions, Councillor Coyne?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I see Councillor McIver, I think, had his mic on, and then we'll go to the Deputy Mayor McCord. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I'm fine, Your Worship.
Okay, Deputy Mayor McCord, did you have a comment or question?
So through you, Your Worship, to Terry, if you would just explain again how we would utilize these four containers.
Yeah, so they'd be used for promotion of our solid waste management program. So they'd be used as prizes for residents who are doing well, who are bought on to the solid waste management program and streaming. So based on submissions and from what we're finding from our travels with on pickups from around the community. So the whole promotional program is being developed by Nicole, our coordinator, and she'll be coming back to council with how we're going to use this, how a resident can actually win one of these and use on their property, and we'll move forward that way. The issue is, in order for the carpentry program to move forward now, delivery time in lumber is also cost. Delivery time is an issue. So they need to get moving now with the program for them to be able to construct. We'll be coming back concurrently with the details of the promotional program. And maybe the mayor wishes to add something here too.
No, nothing else to add. I trust that Nicole will kind of put her thinking cap on and think of some suggestions for council on how these, I guess, wooden structures can be allotted to citizens, and maybe there's some kind of incentives for getting names into draws, and I'm excited to hear back some of the suggestions that Nicole bring to council. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, if you're ready, you can call the question.
Question?
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. Is there any other motions that are coming out of in camera, Terry? Or sorry, not in camera, out of our committee of the whole?
Yes, Your Worship. So we reviewed the makeup, the members, volunteers who have come forward for various advisory committees. So I would like a motion of council or for you to review and if you so desire, a motion of council to move forward with the appointment of members to our committees. The first slide that Aaron has up is with respect to accessibility, and that committee has already been approved. So we'll go to the next one. So beautification, these are the persons who have come forward for communication for beautification. The council appointment is Mayor Chisholm Beaton, with the recommendation of members Don Chisholm, Nancy Cluett, Lynn Gillis, Sharon Ryan, and Vicky Piercing. Economic development, and we can do this one by one, or we can have one motion approving. And so, but I'll go through the committees and we can go back to anyone that you wish.
Sure. Does
So,
council?
Yes.
Sorry, Terry. Does council wish to approve them separately, or would you like to do them in one motion?
One motion should be fine.
Sure. Go ahead, Terry.
Under economic development, we have all our volunteers. There's spaces for every one of our volunteers. So the recommendation is for Ian Langley, John Ouellette. The economic development or the executive director for the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce, Misty McDonald is that person now. But if Misty should move on to a different position, that would be continue. There'd be a spot for that person for the that person in that position. Sari Taylor, Ashley Taylor, Kevin McCackern, and Michelle Tabinski. And we also have our Cape Breton Wren EDO, Economic Development Officer, who is Megan Watt at this point in time. So that is economic development. Financial audit, we've had we have approval from 3 people, Peter Clow, Kim Melanson, and Larry McKeegan. Housing, Maggie McDonald, Sherry Taylor, Isabel Hudson, John Bushy, and John Ouellette. Planning advisory, and again, we know our council appointments, but from committees from the community, Bruce Latimer, Michelle Tabinski, Greg Culp, and again, our Cape Breton Wren Economic Development Officer, who is Megan Watt. Waterfront development recommendations. So we have our existing committee, or the active members on our committee wish to re-engage in another term. John McNeil, that's misspelling. Bert Lewis, Kilmer Marr, Joan McDonald, Tim Blenheim, Vicky Piercing, Maggie McDonald, Ian Langley, and Isabel Hudson. And that should be it for committees.
Thank you, Terry. So what is the wishes of council with regard to these new appointments?
Through you, your worship, to Terry, there was one resident who contacted myself and did send an email in interested in the housing committee, and I see that we have some empty spaces there.
Aaron, go back to housing, please. Yeah. Sure. Yep.
So that was Nicole Potty.
Through you, your worship, so if it's a wish of council, we'll add Nicole Potty's name to the to housing.
Yes, please. Thank you for that, Jason. Is there anybody else that we might have missed that anybody has noticed? And we could also add as people become interested in these particular committees. If we have space for more, we can definitely do some more recruiting. Deputy Mayor McCrory, did you have a comment or question?
Yep, your worship, I was just going to move the appointment of the committee members as presented.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne. Any discussion on the motion that's on the floor? And if not, you can call a question.
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Okay, the committee appointments are approved. Thank you. And we're now on to the approval of our committee of whole minutes. I would first ask if there are any errors or omissions. And pending none, I would ask for a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes of January 19th, 2021.
Moved.
Okay, so we have a mover, Councillor McIver. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
That was a tie.
Oh, I had my mic off, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So I think it was seconded by Councillor Coyne. You can call the question if you're ready.
Question.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, the committee of the whole minutes are approved. Did we have any motions coming out of in camera, Terry?
Yes, Your Worship, for consideration of council, that the town of Port Hawkesbury approve the CAO to go forward with the sale of property as discussed.
Okay, is someone willing to make that motion at our council table at this point?
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coyne. Do we have a seconder?
Second it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion, or you can call the question if you're ready?
Question.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. Any other motions coming from in camera, Terry?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. For your information, we have distributed correspondence from Member of Parliament Jaime Batiste. And I don't know if council would like to have any discussion on that, but there was some really good information with regard to some pending pockets of money that may be coming forward from the federal government for airports and certainly small to large airports that are struggling. Is there any discussion at this time based on this correspondence? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to proclamations and resolutions. We do not have any this evening. And under other business, we have council expenses, which will be reviewed by Terry. They're again extravagant this month, like they were the last couple of months.
Yes, Your Worship, there has been no expenses from mayor, councillors, or the CAO for the month of January.
Okay, thank you, Terry. The next item is regulatory modernization pilot, and I'll hand things to Terry as well as John Bain, our planning director for Eastern District Planning Commission, if he's here this evening. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, Aaron, maybe just put the motion up. It might be easier to explain that way. The Eastern District Planning has asked councils to consider support of a planning initiative that's going forward from EDPC to municipal affairs. It is for funding and probably best just to actually to read the what the funding is for. It's for to develop a consistent regional planning, and given that municipal innovation program is intended for such initiative, it is a move by the town of Port Hawkesbury to support application from our district planning for funding under the program to hire on a term basis planning services to create a municipal planning document that meet the minimum planning requirements instituted by the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and where appropriate, harmonize these bylaws. So there's a number of demands right now from Eastern District Planning. There's added requirements to create planning bylaws and zoning throughout our province. At the same time, the Office of Regulatory Affairs has been working on a pilot project in Cape Breton with a number of initiatives. And one of the issues that they found throughout Cape Breton was the discrepancies and the differences between our planning bylaws between municipalities, between all the municipalities. This work will help us standardize that. So if you're a developer and you're used to working in CBRM, you'll find that once this is complete, that there's a lot more similarities from the planning bylaws and planning strategies in CBRM, or as now in Inverness and in town of Port Hawkesbury and Richmond County and County of Victoria. So that is the basis for that. We have a program now that's available through Municipal Affairs to support this. This very worthwhile planning work that will help not only the town of Port Hawkesbury, but all of the members of EDPC. So in order for that to go forward, Municipal Affairs has asked for a motion from council to that effect.
Yeah, so Terry, is this strictly a motion to support, or is there any financial contribution required from the town of Port Hawkesbury?
There's no additional contribution by the town of Port Hawkesbury for this program.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Is there any other questions from council with regard to this request coming forward from Eastern District Planning? Okay, so is there a willingness for council to move a motion forward this evening?
Yes, Your Worship, I definitely would make that motion. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor McCrory. Do we have a seconder this evening?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coyne. Any discussion on the motion? If there are none, you can call the question.
Question.
Okay, question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. Thank you, Terry, for bringing us through that. And the next item is a shared IT service, and that's going to be presented by our Finance Director, Erin McAcken. Go ahead, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So most of council's aware that we've been working with the District of St. Mary's, the counties of Victoria and Antigonish and Inverness, the town of Antigonish and ourselves on a joint IT project. We're all in need of improved, I guess, IT services, and none of us have any IT personnel on staff. So we did have a consultant hired about a year ago or 9 months ago. And they looked at all the inventory of the municipalities involved, at our networks, at our individualities of each municipality, as well as the common kind of network and IT needs that we would have. And they came up with a preliminary framework for us moving forward together to share an IT service. We're looking to, similarly to the Municipal Innovation Program that you just approved for Planning Commission, we're looking to apply for some funding through that program as well to help move that project to the next stage. So we need more detailed costing, both staff and councils around the table before making a decision on moving forward with any shared service. Need to ensure we know what our costs are going to be moving forward, and we need a more solid operational plan and how that how we move forward operationally with a shared IT service. So this would be a small, we have consulting funds in place now, would be a very small amount from each municipality, but we're looking to offset our costs through an application through the Municipal Innovation Program to fund up to 90% of the consulting fees. So again, this is in our budget already, very minimal dollars, but we need a motion of council in order to support that application. So that's what we're looking for here. So the motion is in front of you. Any questions I'd be happy to take.
Thank you, Erin. And whoever makes that motion has to read it.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor, are you interested in moving that motion?
Sure, Your
You
Worship.
don't have to. I was just trying to be funny. Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the motion?
I'll second.
No strings attached, I promise. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for the motion that's coming forward. Do we have any discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Aaron. Aaron, am I correct in the my understanding of the funding through the Municipal Innovation Program to get closer to that 90% contribution from the province is dependent on the number of municipal partners that are taking part in the application?
I think it looks good. We're 6 municipalities that have worked together significantly over the last probably 10 years, particularly around the IT initiatives and our accounting system. And I think we're getting this application in now and would be looking for the funding, I think, in this fiscal year. So I think we're ready to roll. We already have you know, the major plan in place to be able to move forward. We're just looking kind of for those operational details and more specific on costing. So I think I suspect, and based on other individuals who've talked to municipal affairs, you know, this should be a good project to put forward. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do you have any other follow-up questions?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from any other councillors?
Question.
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. Thank you, Erin. And I read that program. It's like, what a wonderful program. It's very much in line with the vision and I guess the principles behind the One Nova Scotia and in how all municipalities need to figure out how to work together. So it's a great example in how we can achieve our goals. Thanks for that. Okay, so our next agenda item is approved additions. We do not have any this evening, so we're going to move on to future meetings. Our next committee of the whole will be on February 16th, 2021. And then our next public meeting, of course, is the first Tuesday of March, which lands on March 2nd, 2021. And I would at this time see if there's any questions from the gallery. We do have a few folks that are online observing with us virtually. And at this time, if there is any questions, we'd be happy to do our best to answer them. You just have to turn your camera on and introduce yourself and ask your question. Okay, hearing none then, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McDougall. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, Deputy Mayor McCrory has seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. We are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And thank you to everyone in the gallery for joining us, as well as staff. And if media would like to stay on for questions, you're welcome to do so.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Take care, everyone.